So, good morning, Fiona. It's really wonderful to have you joining us in I Am Woman as our join our community, but also joining us this morning as a speaker for us. And I met Fiona, oh gosh, I think it's nearly 10 years ago. And it was when Fiona had joined us in a group that we had in Swindon. And it was just so lovely to see her part of joining that community when she had just started in business. And I suppose we all think about, well, when am I going to step into perhaps local radio, national radio, or the national press? And I just think it's so important that we, in some ways, we know the rules, because I can remember getting it so wrong when I think I was just 30 and I was running an enterprise centre for women, and they put live radio through to my office without giving me any prompt that live radio was coming through to my office. And the first thing when they said, "Oh, Cheryl Bass, we're interviewing you this morning, we're really interested in blah, blah, blah," the first thing I said was, "You can't possibly be interviewing me. I haven't got my lipstick on." And you think, why would you say that when it's a radio station coming through to your office? So I think in some ways, Fiona, we all need to be prepped in some way, because we never know when we're going to be dropped in. We never know when somebody's going to almost like force a camera on us, or when all of a sudden, like Kim was talking about gut health, suddenly there's a massive surge in interest in this, and suddenly somebody wants you to either feature in the news or get on local radio. So without further ado, I love Fiona. She's got so many skills she's going to be sharing with you. So I'm just going to say over to you, Fiona.
Oh gosh, Cheryl, right. Lovely to meet you all, and I'm thrilled to be back with I Am Woman again after actually it's almost 15 years.
Wow.
Cheryl, I know. I'll just give you a very rough resume of my background. You know where I'm coming from. So I've been a journalist for 38 years, and I started in local newspapers, and I did a bit of radio, and then I went into television, and I worked for ITV from junior researcher up to series producer, which is just a posh TV word for project manager. I was made redundant in 2009, so I've been a freelance journalist since then and run a PR agency in the background. So in my world, PR and journalism and media are all the same things, okay? It's all about telling stories. What has changed massively over this period of time that I've run my own business is what is the media? What makes the media up? So I think there are three basic principles I want you to focus on today. The first really important thing is, why do you want to be visible and seen in the media? The why is really important, okay? Because this takes time, effort, and money. And you can cut that cake up in any way you like. It's going to take one or two of those things. So the more money you've got, the less time, but it will still involve time. The more time you've got, the less money you've got, the more time it will take. So it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Even if you're working with someone like me, like loads of other aspects of business, there is no magic sauce. There is no quick fix when dealing with the media. The second thing is, what is the media? So when I started, it was very traditional: radio, TV, newspapers, magazines were the main outlets. Now we've got online publications, we've got podcasters, we've got YouTubers, we've got social media. All of that is part of the media these days. So when I'm working with my PR clients, PR actually means public relations lady. So it's wherever you touch the public. Okay, and a good PR person cannot possibly cover all the disciplines of PR, but they're going to know if you're missing something. And all of you will be doing PR. You just haven't called it that. That's all. 'Cause all of marketing is PR. But I'm not a website developer and an expert in websites, but I'm going to know if your website is no good, or if you are flip-flopping between doing one thing 1 minute and one thing the next and another thing the next, which is very confusing for people when they want to buy from you. I mean, you must, ladies, give me a nod or a hat, sort of a hands up. Have you ever met someone in business who 1 week is doing one thing, the next week is doing something else, the week after they're doing something else? Well, in PR land, that is awful, because you just don't know where you are. So if you are that portfolio person, as I kind of am, journalist, mother, wife, you know, business owner, okay, you start with you. You're the story. And everything you do stems out from you. And that's a really important piece of advice when dealing with the mainstream media. So your why is important. And the reason it's important is because it takes time, but also the why is what journalists are not interested in at the beginning. The how is different from the why. Okay, so if I take what a couple of you have said to me, so if I particularly, I'm not picking up, you know, but Jude, if I take someone like you, what you've given me is a mission statement. I've not got any idea really from what you've said of what you actually provide or the service or product you provide, if that makes sense, okay? So for a journalist, if you met me for the first time, I would think, well, what do you actually do? Your mission and your why is clear, and that's very noble. But how are you going to achieve that? The how. So journalists need to understand the how. The mission stuff comes later. I hope that makes sense. And I don't mean to be rude in any way at all. But we've all met people at networking events, men and women, where they come out with this great esoteric theory of what they want to achieve. And at the end of it, you think, yeah, but what do you actually do? I sell supplements, I sell skincare products. I'm a hypnotherapist, whatever it might be. I run a business women's network in a referral group. Journalists need to understand, because we all compartmentalize people. We can't help it. So I'll think, right, that goes in the therapist and well-being space or the health space. And when I go on to talk about other things, this is going to make sense to you. So you have to keep the why at the center of, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep pressing this button when actually a journalist is talking about what kind of glasses I like to wear or how I have my hair done? Or, you know, because journalists are interested in people and people's experiences, not your grand mission statement. Does that make sense to everyone? So hold on to the why, but now I want you to focus on the how, okay? Right, then I want you to think about how the media works. So quite often I'll have people say to me, and I had a lady from South Wales recently say this to me, and I want to relay this conversation with you, just to not really shine a light on her or make her feel daft or anything, but just to show the kind of things and the ridiculous notions that people have. So this lady won an award for hair and makeup in South Wales, which is great. She won a local award. And she obviously put out a message to say, can anyone help me raise my profile? And she got in touch with me, had a conversation with her. She was a single mum who'd won a local award, which was amazing for her. And she said to me, I'm not interested in the local press. I want national press. I want to be the go-to makeup artist on This Morning. And I said to her, okay, how much are you prepared to invest monthly in that, achieving that goal? And she said 50 quid. And I said, okay, now I know the team at This Morning. Do you think they're going to use someone they've never heard of who's won a local award? Or do you think they're going to use the makeup artist they work with every day in the green room in London? And she went, oh. And so you really have to have clear expectations of how the media work. Members of the media like me are just like you. We will always focus on people that we already know, that are in our contacts, or people that we see every day. So my first piece of advice to you ladies, if you want to be visible to the media, start in the room you are in, because there will be somebody that is doing a media task or a media aspect to their business in almost every room you are in. And we can start here. Okay, so you need to get savvy when you're in different rooms physically or online with clocking who are the media voices in this room. Now, obviously, you've got an easy one today because it's me, but you don't know all that I do you? So 20% of the time I'm a working journalist and I'm looking actively for stories. So you can say to me and email me after this, Fiona, what are you doing in the next couple of months that I can be a part of? It's that simple. I write for Total Guide to Swindon. It's an online news publication. It was started about over 10 years ago. And it's mainly about community stuff, but I run all the business stuff and they pay me a small retainer. And the reason I'm explaining this to you in detail, so you start to understand how journalists work at a very practical level. Basically, most of us are just like you. We are freelance. So they pay me an amount a month to write 3 stories a week. So that's 12 stories a month for a retainer, which would pay me about 12 quid a story. Now, that's not a lot of money. So how do I make that work? Well, I just provide people who are interested. I say, these are my monthly questions for August. Answer them, please. Make sure you include a link to your website. Send me a nice headshot and I will publish it during August. Now, are any of you ladies up for that? Yeah? Okay. Excellent. Good. Well, if you email me afterwards, I will get Hannah, my VA, will send you the August stories, and then you then are on my list. So what I will do is once a quarter, all my clients get it once a month, but once a quarter, I'll say, here are the stories for September, October, November. Here are the questions I'm asking. Do you want to be involved again? And you are going to say yes. And depending on where you're based in the UK, I can put it on Total Swindon, which is the parent site. So it's got the biggest domain authority, so Google loves it. Doesn't matter that it's Swindon, doesn't matter that you're not based in Swindon, they don't care about that. I would tell you if they did. But we've also got Total Bristol, Total Bath, Total Cardiff, Total Manchester, Total Reading, Total Dorset. So if any of you are based in any of those places, I can put it on those sites too. So you get 2 links. And I would say share them at least a week apart, so it doesn't look like you're replicating content. So there you go. I'm a podcaster. Anyone else here do podcasts? Okay, right. Yeah, 2. Who'd like to be a guest on a podcast? Hands up. Marvellous. So that's 2 opportunities in the room that you're in. Anyone here starting a YouTube channel? Got a YouTube channel? All right. So there's 4 opportunities. So we can all help each other because we all have concentric circles that cross over, don't we? Where there are people we all know, but there'll be people we don't. The value of a journalist, though, who's employed is that their circles are, by the nature of what they do, much, much bigger than yours. So I would say start with the media in the room you're in. That gets you going, that gets you experience, that gets you confidence, that gets you links to share. And then behind the scenes, build some more mainstream journalist contacts. So how do you do that, ladies? Well, you start where you're based. Okay, you start where you're based. And this is the reason why. Local journalists want to write about local people. It's that simple. And what they're up to. Are you running an event? Are you raising money for charity? Are you able to talk about the Olympics and how it relates to your expertise at the moment of certain things at the Olympic? Could you reflect on that? I do that with clients all the time. We call it newsjacking. The Olympics are happening whether you exist in the world or not. But you might be able to choose 5 things from the Olympics which speak to your expertise. So what in this room, if I think off the top of my head, I'm massively into the Olympics. I'm not sporty, but if I think about it, okay, how many of the Olympians did you see used cupping, used breath work, talked about mental health, talked about their journey, talked about nutrition? Clock those things, do a search, and you can use those stories during this Olympic and into Paralympic period to be part of that conversation. Okay, so make local media your best friends. If you meet a local journalist for your local paper, local magazine, local radio, local community radio, invite them out for coffee. It's a very old-fashioned thing to do, and you might have to wait 6 months, but do it anyway. Because once you're in their orbit and you deliver for them once, they're not going to forget you. So who is the lady who said you've been on local radio? Yeah, okay. Right, Kim. If you've been on local radio, you have to understand how journalism works, particularly around the BBC, okay? People start their careers generally in local press. and they'll either specialise or maybe moved into radio or TV, or they'll go on to the national press. But their heart remains local, so they'll always look locally when they're looking for an expert, always. So with the BBC, they are a very particular case. So let's just say I do something for BBC Wiltshire, or you do something for BBC Wales, or wherever you're based, you go in to the BBC central contacts. They have a pot, an intranet, and good interviews sit in that pot, which is searchable throughout the world by the BBC. And the BBC is the biggest news site in the world, English language news site in the world, bar none. It outstrips everything, CNN, Daily Mail, Yahoo. So if you're an expert in local BBC, or you share an opinion about something on the local BBC radio, you go into their pot and you might suddenly find that BBC Carlisle's picked up your interview, and suddenly you're getting a call from a potential client or from somewhere you think, well, where's that come from? Because it's been used on local radio there. So the BBC is your best friend. And luckily for you, they want to talk to people. Okay, is this all making sense? I know I'm throwing a load at you. Okay, so understand how the media works. One, we're freelance, 90% of us. So if we can get access to experts very quickly, that's great. There are various places you can find journalists doing shout outs for things. On X or Twitter, if you use the search term journo request, hashtag journo request, journalists sit largely on Twitter, X. So if you're not on there because you don't like it, get over yourself if you want to get in contact with journalists. I'm not saying you have to post, but it's helpful if you do. But yeah, use a search term, hashtag journo request, and it will throw up a new window and you click latest, not top. You don't want X deciding what you see. Click latest, and it will give you all the requests from journalists, influencers, podcasts that have come up, and there will be many all over the world. Now, most of them will be nonsense and will be totally irrelevant to you. So my suggestion is for about a month, look through now and then you'll see a journalist that will say something like, I'm looking for someone who can give me 5 tips on how to deal with hot weather. Slide into my DMs, do what the journalist says. So you then slide into, if that's relevant to you and you can help with that, you slide into that journalist DMs and say, oh, hi, Fiona, I saw that request you put out. I'd really like to help you. My area of expertise is this. I've got good pictures. Okay, that's another key thing. Tell them you've got good pictures. Can I have a quick show of hands? How many of you have professional headshots? Okay, if you want to deal with the media, the first investment you must make before working with someone like me at all is professional narrative headshots. So by that, what I mean is not you standing against a white wall or a black wall, okay? Beautiful pictures of you. The reason is that the media does not employ professional photographers much anymore. So in order to have coverage, if you say, I've got excellent headshots of myself that you can use, sometimes that'll be the thing that gets you across the line over the 9 other people who've emailed her and they haven't got headshots. Selfies won't cut it. No, sorry, unless it's a story about selfies, they won't cut it. Have good headshots done. And also, you all should have them anyway. If you're running a business where you expect people to pay you more than 50 quid an hour, your headshot's got to look like you're worth that amount of money. Or would you agree? So a good headshot shoot can cost you any amount of money, anything from say 300 up to, I think the most I've paid is £2,000 for a whole day with a fantastic photographer. But you know, you can cut that cloth according to what budget, but invest in that, please. It's really important. Gosh, lost my thread now. Does anyone want to ask me any questions? Is anything in your mind and you're thinking, I want to ask that question now? No?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
I can remember in the days of Sarah Ty, when she was chair of Iron Woman, not only did she insist that people had a headshot, they had to have their own bio already written, and also a backgrounder to where they've come from.
Yeah.
So that's still a requirement?
Yeah, I think it's a useful thing to have. So when I work with a client, and Sarah mentored me when I started, we have to have certain things as PR person in order to put our clients through for opportunities and not bother the client until that opportunity is either across the line or nearly across the line. And one of those things is photographs. I've got great headshots of my client, Sangeeta or Cheryl. And would you like a bio? And usually we call it a long form bio or a short bio. You need two. One would be about 100, 150 words, and one would be longer. And if you had a bigger business, I would also have a business backgrounder, because if you've got a bigger business, so if you are a consultant, someone like me, I'm talking about a business that's a 6-figure turnover or more. If you sell products and you're in that type of business, a business that's around £1 million turnover, there's a point where the brand and the brand owner separate. It happens quite naturally. So if you think of someone like Richard Branson, he would have a backgrounder for all his various business interests and one for himself as a business owner. So there are various things you need, but if you start with a bio and a set of good pictures that are up to date. Now, women are particularly bad at this, I have to say, though I've seen it with men too. Great photographs of how you looked 20 years ago or when you were 3 stone lighter do not cut it. You have to be comfortable in the skin you're in now. Okay, I've had men and women say to me, I'll work with you, Fiona, when I've lost 3 stone. Well, yeah, I'd like to lose 3 stone, ladies. I know how hard that is. What are you going to do? Delay your business for 2 or 3 years when it takes you to do that? You've got to be comfortable with who you are now. So I actually have my headshots done every single year. I'm about to have another shoot done in 2 weeks. And I'm very uncomfortable in front of a camera, which sounds mad, I know, but I really don't like it. But I see it as a business necessity. Okay, I thought I'd flip now, if it's helpful to you, into dealing with national press. So with local press, make them your friends and don't be a friend to send them proactive stories, telling them what you're doing. Okay, up to 12 a year. So, okay, 1 a month if you could. Most small business owners can't do 1 a month. Because they're not doing enough to generate that kind of activity, or they're working on their own steam. They're not working with someone like me, so they struggle to come up with ideas. So proactively send your stories out. You know, I've started a podcast. I'm about to publish my first book. Just look at your diary and think, what am I doing that would make a good local news story about me and my business? Remember, it's me and my business, not my business and me. You have to understand it's not about your business, it's about you. For journalists, as it is with anyone you meet, and particularly for service-based businesses like mine. So you can proactively send out stories to the local media, and any win you get, share it and celebrate it and say thank you and keep in touch with that journalist. Don't stalk them. There's a fine line, okay? And many journalists are really happy to be on your newsletter list, by the way. So don't be afraid to ask them, as long as you're not emailing them every day. Once you build a relationship, you can say, look, I send out a monthly newsletter. Would it be all right to add you to the list? Because you might be sharing news that they think is a news story that you totally missed. And they might come back and think, oh, yeah, okay, well, you know, oh, actually, it's August. It's a slow news month. Cheryl sent me that newsletter. I think that's a really nice story about her open garden. I'll get in contact with her, and I know I'll be able to make a picture spread. That's the way journalists think. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. And if you're ever unsure, you know, if you're a member of I Am Woman like me, message me and I'll say, yeah, go for it. Or I think that's really a blog. I'm really happy. Oh, starting to thunder. Right, national press, you need to think slightly different about yourself, okay? Because national press are not going to write about the event that you're running in your community. Because if you think about it, they've got the whole world to fish in. So with national press, you need to be reactive. You need to understand what they're looking for, when they are looking for it, and approach them at the right time. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we can use journal request, proactive request. I would say choose 2 or 3 national journalists or outlets where you think, I would love to be there. That is exactly where I want to be. That would help me. And that will be different for all of us. And sometimes where we want to be won't make any sense. You might want to be on This Morning or Good Morning Britain, but follow their Facebook feeds or any key individuals you see posting, follow them on X or follow them on LinkedIn, and just start to clock how they're engaging with people and follow them. I've got a couple of really good tips of groups you can join for this. There is one on Facebook called Feature Me, so capital F, capital M, Feature Me, exclamation mark, if you look it up on Facebook. It's run by a couple of national journalists called Jill and Sadie. You cannot post in that group, but journalists will put in that group. They tend to be feature writers, and they tend to write for what we would have called in the old days the red tops. So your Daily Mail, your Sun, your Mirror, your Express, Sun Magazine. So if those are not where you want to be, this group isn't going to work for you. But remember, they're all freelance journalists and they write across lots of different outlets depending on the commissions they get. And they will say, this week I'm looking for this. And if you fit that bill, you just respond and say, that's me. I'd really love to be involved. What are the next steps? And they'll tell you. Because if they then contact you, you're halfway there. Because you've make sure you meet the brief. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is if I'm writing an article for the Daily Mail on people who collect green handbags, I'm not interested in your yellow handbags. You've got to fit the brief. If I'm writing about successful women hitting 60 this year, you've got to be hitting 60 this year, not last year, not next year, this year. And remember, as soon as you're across the line and you're talking to a journalist, this happens to me all the time. I've got great coverage doing this and for my clients. They have to say what you do. They have to say, Fiona Scott, who runs a media consultancy, Scott Media, based in the Southwest or in Swindon. And that's the sales bit. Okay, so let's just say they're doing something on, Tony, tell me what you do, because I don't think you actually told me what you did.
Okay, sorry, I always have trouble trying to come off. So I'm looking to, so I'm an NLP practitioner. I'm looking to go forward doing that. So I'm working with Cheryl just to work on me a little bit so I can put myself out there. So I'm a little bit behind the scenes at the moment. Other than that, I run a small little business in the community, like care-based kind of thing.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so for you, when you're ready, Tony, your first local story will be, here I am. I exist in my new business, story 1. Really nice photo of you, description of what you're doing. But just because your business is new doesn't mean you haven't got loads of experience behind you. So you then put a little bit of your backstory in, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But for the national press, they have to learn about all of who you are, Tony. So there's a little exercise I'd like you to do, ladies. And if I see any of you face to face when I attend a meeting, I think it's September the 12th, I'm coming over. I'll be interested to see if you do this. So think of your life as a magazine, okay? Your life is a magazine. So I want you to draw a circle, and in the middle you put you, me and my business. So Fiona and Scott Media, okay? And then draw lines out from that, almost like a spider's web, okay? And on the end of each line is a section of a magazine. So I'll give you some ideas first, okay? Education is 1. Finance. Age. Ethnicity. family circumstances, health, and all of our subjects will have some similarities and some differences. So when you start to think of your life as a magazine, different sections of a magazine, all of us have stories we can tell under those headings. The next question you have to think about is, do I want to tell those stories? Okay, because what you put out, you cannot claw back later. So mentally, you have to be ready to tell those stories. Tony, does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't underestimate when it comes to the national press, because if you get that opportunity, you see a journalist talking about, let me see, what would come up this month? Empty nest syndrome, bullying, something, if there's an awareness month this month, let's have a quick look at my social media diary. Let's see.
It's cream.
South Asian Heritage Month.
It's cream.
Yeah.
It's cream tea week all this week. So does Kim need to talk
Marvelous.
about what to do with the gut?
Yeah, anything like that. But with journalists, you see, they work on a news cycle. Okay, stories that are cyclical, that will come round every year. So it's about spotting where you fit under that cycle. So if you do that exercise, for those of you that think, oh, I haven't really got a story to tell, yeah, you have. You've got a ton of them. You've just got to decide which ones fit your business, fit your personality, fit your goals, and which ones you're not ready to tell. It's fine not to tell all of your stories, folks, because you might not be ready. And I'm going to just share with you how that can translate in practice. I had a client I worked with who was an artist, a very successful artist, and she was desperate to be in the national press. She'd managed her local press for quite a long time. I took that over because she was time poor, but she wanted national press. And I arranged for her to meet a national journalist in London at an event, and I went with her and her husband. And it's sort of a smaller iteration of the event that I'm running next year. And this national journalist wanted to talk to her, and she had a complete meltdown just before and wouldn't talk to the journalist, literally ran away. And when I had no idea where this had come from or what had caused it, or it was a complete meltdown, and even her husband was at a loss. So we lost that opportunity, and that journalist, frankly, thought she was a bit weird and a bit odd. Now, subsequent to that, I found out there was various traumas and things going on that have nothing to do with PR. So what I said to her is, you need a coach, a life coach to deal with that, because actually it damages my reputation as a PR specialist to take you to meet someone in London when you can't fulfill that very basic meeting. Okay, so when you do this like circle of stories, when you get a bit of the ick, or, oh yeah, I could talk about that, but I'm not sure I'm ready. If that really triggers you, work on that later. Because that doesn't need a PR specialist, that needs a coach, and I'm not a coach. There's a natural degree of coaching that goes with PR, but that is not my speciality or where I want to be. So I will, when I encounter someone like that, these days more often than not, especially with people who've got a purpose or a heartfelt mission, I'll say, there's too much trauma with you, and I cannot, in all justice, put you in front of any national journalist until you've dealt with that, because once we put it out, we can't pull it back. Whereas with local media, where you're focused on events and things in your diary, that's less likely to come up. If that makes sense, ladies. I'm just keeping an eye on time. How am I doing, Cheryl? Because I'm conscious I'm banging on for ages. But what I'm trying to say to you is there's a world of opportunity for any of you to be showcased at a local, regional and national level with a bit of work. Okay, with a bit of work and understanding of how the media works, what they're looking for, and how you fit in, and an understanding of what your stories are. Because we are all many stories. There are many stories we can tell about ourselves. And by telling all of those stories, we then have the degree of control we have is describing what we do. And that's the advert. That's the bit where journalists will look to us. And they'll say, how journalists speak to me is they'll often say, a lot of the national journalists I deal with, I know really well. So they'll say, Fiona, what do you want to be for this story? Do you want to be a small business owner, a PR consultant, fellow journalist? And I will flex it depending on what the story is and where I want them to go. So if I'm talking about my professional speaker platform, I will say, I want you to say that I run Scott Media Speakers. And if you can give me a link, I want it to go there. Or if I'm doing something for charity, I'm going to want them to go towards a charitable link. Or if I'm in doubt, I just drive it to my website. That's the sales bit. And that's a tiny part of the conversation. And then I can relax and talk about my fascination with handbags and shiny shoes, and why I just hate eating olives and fish gives me the and why I've got 4 children, and my grandson, and what it's like working with celebrities, what it's like working with a Paralympian who's competing in Paris in a couple of weeks' time, and who I'm going to see. We are all so colourful. We just have to learn to express it. So really, it's just about, there are loads of possibilities, ladies. You just need to put a little bit of structure around it, and you just need to make a start, and make a start locally, so it doesn't feel overwhelmed and overwhelming. Does that help? Have I frightened you to death?
I wonder as well, Fiona, if we almost won't push ourselves forward, thinking the concentration needs to be on selling in the business, and forgetting it is about us. It is about us as human beings, and not being shy, because, when I'm looking on screen here, everyone is super talented, but is afraid to almost step forward, because, when you look at Sangeeta and when you look at Karen, they both work with grief in different ways. And knowing in some ways they're good to go, but I know they will hold back and hold back and hold back, waiting until the perfect situation applies, or the perfect condition applies, or somebody comes and knocks their door and drags them out and makes that happen for them. They concentrate more on building a part of their business, as opposed to saying, I'm good to go, and I'm going to be out there and making a success. Because sometimes I think as well, sometimes we have to learn to deal with the success, and not think we've got to have everything perfect in the business before we start telling the world we exist and we would like to connect with them.
Look, I remember when my business, about 6 or 7 years in, my business hit 6-figure turnover, and you might think that's really exciting, but I was terrified, because I thought, how did I do it, and how can I replicate that? And, because I've got other things in my life that are important. And so what I did was I took my foot off the gas for a couple of years in order to learn how to do it smarter. And the other thing is, when you are marketing yourself, you are selling. It's just sales down the line. It's filling your pipeline. You are selling, but it doesn't feel like that, because it feels like you're putting all this effort in, and what's the return on investment? Well, for our type of businesses, and I think this probably applies to all of us in the room, people do buy from people. It's an old adage, but it's so true. And the truth is, if any of you wanted to do PR and you're looking for a PR consultant, how many of them are there, even in my own community? Swindon. So what is and we all are largely offering the same services. Some of us are similarly trained. So how do I stand out from everyone else? The only thing I've got that's different is me, my expertise and my stories. And you have to put that out there. There are loads of hypnotherapists. There are loads of NLP practitioners. There are loads of people that do what we want to do. And so we can, in fear, get embroiled in analysis paralysis, wait for perfect, and you'll be waiting forever, because I've been waiting for it for 17 years and I'm not perfect. Wait for, I want to lose 3 stone, or I haven't put my makeup on. No, action is the most powerful thing you can take. You no need to only influence 1 or 2 people for them to think that I'm like that. I want a bit of that, and I want that person to help me. And I'm prepared to pay for it. And that might be for an hour, it might be for 6 months. I mean, I don't know how your business is set up. I particularly am set up so that people can spend a lot with me or a little, depending where they are in their journey. And that's fine. But the marketing is really important. And I in my world, public relations is the whole of marketing. So it's your website, it's your social media. So I always think of it as a tree. You know, to get people down the sales funnel into the trunk and into the roots of your business, none of that exists without the tree and the canopy. And that canopy needs to keep growing if you want your business to grow. And it needs to always be nurtured. If you get to a stage where you think, as I did, 100 grand a year, I'm really happy with that. I'm going to stick to that. But if I don't bother to market myself, that canopy is going to wither and die, and my business is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. It might flatline for a while, but it's going to get smaller. So the marketing is so important. One thing I get a lot is authors, and they'll come to me and say, Fiona, I want you to help me market my book. It came out 2 years ago. Too late, folks. Too late. And then they'll say, well, how long do I need to spend marketing my book in order to get people to buy it? And I'll say to them, how many hours a day did you spend writing it? And they'll say, well, I don't know, 2, 3, 4. I say, exactly the same amount of time. Oh, no, you must be joking. No, a new book is published every 3 seconds. Every 3 seconds. So do you really think, with all the noise, that you're going to be seen by publishing one thing on Facebook once a month? No, you've got to be consistent. You build your audience through consistency, not through perfection. There are certain things you need to have in place depending where you are in your journey, but perfection will hold you back. Fear will hold you back. Fear of, I'm not good enough. People won't think I'm good enough. People will think I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, whatever it might be. It's not all of that. There are people that need you now. They just don't know it yet. And there will be people that come forward. I mean, I have it on an almost weekly basis. Why can't you shut up? I'll get a message. Why can't you shut up? You're on all the time. And I just say, thank you very much for your comment. Feel free to block me. I'm running a business here. Because I'm not speaking to them. They're never going to buy from me. I'm speaking to all the unseen people who are around me. I've just signed with a client for 2 years who's been watching me for 4 years. He's based in London. I have no idea he was watching me. He hasn't liked a single post. He hasn't commented on a single post anywhere that I've done. Trust the process, ladies. Trust the process. Cheryl.
Oh, wonderful. There's so many gems of learning there. So we're going to go round everyone in order to capture what was the light bulb of learning for them. So it'd be really lovely for you. It's almost like we're coming to you and saying, oh, Fiona, we love that point. That's going to make such a massive difference to business. So Sangeeta, what was the light bulb moment for you, and how are you going to take it forward?
I think it's all very interesting. Thank you, Fiona. I mean, I knew a little bit of it, but not the depth of it. And I always have felt that whenever I've spoken on TV or radio, it's about me, it's my story. But I want to ask you one question, because I talk about emotions and I talk about mind. And I know when I was on TV, and one time I got emotional a little bit, not that I couldn't speak up, but I had tears in my eyes, a lump in your throat. How is that seen by the media? Is it a good sign, a bad sign? Or look, no, don't go there because you're still feeling the emotions. So I want to ask that.
Generally, that it would be a good sign. It would be a good sign. But I mean, if you're going to totally lose it, you just ask for a pause.
Of course. Yeah.
But generally, it'll be a good sign because it shows that you're passionate and you care.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important. And if that is coming across, especially in broadcast, then people who are listening or watching will pick up on that. So generally, it's a good sign. And it's quite common, actually, that it does happen. Okay. So it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, because my stories is all like strong emotion, strong passion, and I feel it strongly. But what I learned, what I'm going to take forward is, the looking at my life as a magazine. So it's not just one aspect of me, not the business. I mean, I think of business the last anyway. I was like, I need to get better at thinking about business. But of course, the finances, age, education, ethnicity. So I think I'm going to take that and I'm going to work at it. And maybe I'll connect with that. And I want to know a bit more about money and how it all works. So I'll arrange a call with you separately. But thank you so
Okay,
much.
that's
It was
great.
all very, very
Thank you.
useful.
Thank you, Sangeeta. And Karen, over to you. Light bulb of learning from Fiona this morning.
Very, very similar, because I sort of wrote down the whole thing around the magazine and just thinking what stories I've got. But it's also that thing of, do you want to tell those stories? Because at the moment I'm dealing with a probate office in New York, in England, which is a right pain in the backside. There's a great story there, but do I want to tell it because it's very negative? Does it show me in a negative light because that would be attached to it? So it's all those things that come up with it. And that whole thing is, are you being triggered by something? In which case, just be very careful about that. But I love what you say about authors, because I say the same thing. You know, you start marketing your book the minute you start writing the bloody thing, because you tell people, you bring them on the journey with you, whatever the book is. And that's part of the published method. That's the you for the underpinning. So yeah, it's great. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
And over to you, Kim. Light bulb of learning from this morning. How would you want to move it forward?
First of all, Fiona, I really have enjoyed this hour of like so much useful information. I thought the hashtag journo requests, I've done that on my Twitter, and it's like, oh, that's really interesting. There's really like lots of different articles there, and some articles I've seen that other people could write as well. I love also thinking about the media in the room. I just thought that was very, you know, as you say, it's other people's podcasts, it's other people's YouTube channels, it's all sorts of things like that. I thought that was really good. And then the last thing is I'm new in my area. We only moved here last October, so I don't know. I come from Oxford, so not far from where you are, Swindon. But I don't know what our local press is, apart from a local Facebook group where people post events. I don't know what the local press is. So that's a real action step for me, is to find out what actually is the local press that I'm dealing with here. So really useful.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to connect with you as well.
Lovely. Thank you, Kim. And over to you, Mel. What was the light bulb of learning for you this morning?
Well, it's completely opened my eyes, Fiona, actually, because I knew very, very little about journalism generally and the media and how it works. It kind of resonated with me when you were saying about start local, you know, start with the people you're with, in the room you're in, because I think that's something that I've only recently started to really realize, that I have to kind of link with the people I know a bit more, rather than just assume that they won't have any contacts or they won't be able to put work my way or collaborate, or, you know, that's not necessarily the case. So kind of reaching out to people in that way. And I love the exercise that you've suggested that we do, which is something that I'm going to definitely work on, because it's interesting to kind of look at different aspects of your life, isn't it? And then you're absolutely right. We've all got stories, and that's all we kind of, I suppose, have to cling on to in terms of what makes us unique. Because you're right, you know, I'm an NLP practitioner. I'm a leadership trainer. There's hundreds, thousands of people who do what I do, and that has very often been the thing that has kind of pushed me. Well, I'll rephrase that. I've allowed it to push me back and sort of not put myself forward. And the other thing, again, someone said recently in another group I'm in, courage precedes confidence. And that resonated with me when you said about, you know, the whole fear thing, waiting for something to be ready, waiting for this, waiting for that. So there's a lot of new stuff here. It's given me a really good insight and also kind of helped me consolidate, I suppose, or reinforce some things that I've learned lately. So yeah, I would love to connect because I've also got something else I'd like to talk to you about, but I won't bore everyone here. Thank you, Fiona.
Thank you. And Tony, what was your light bulb of learning? How are you going to move it forward?
Okay, so you're not going to like say now as my coach. So the business and the coaching kind of went out of my mind, and what did come to my mind is, as you know, I've got a big story of my own. It's very traumatic but inspirational, and it's turned right around. And I've always thought I wanted to share that, and I didn't know whether I'm at the right place or what I took from that was, you know, maybe I just need to like do what I felt I should have done, which is share what has happened and, you know, how I've come through. And that's just what I was thinking about when you were talking, if I'm honest.
So keep processing that and see what you're going to use the story to, you know, access for you. You know, is it going to be a business coming off the back of it? So what is the story connected to? Is it writing a book, or what is it connected to? We can't go into that now, but what's the story, almost like the foundation for? Yeah,
I don't really want to share that. I'd like to connect with you, Fiona, and I'm sure that we've gone through it, Cheryl. You know, time spent in New York and stuff, and I just got this overwhelming feeling that it should be shared, but I question, you know, we're working together now, we're working on me, whether it's the right time or not. And just then I just got this feeling that, you know, I felt it is. You do question yourself, whether you should or you shouldn't, but I do feel like time to share. It's been 5 years now, and I think it's come good. It's come full circle.
There we go.
Can I just say that is exactly your intuition talking, and you should never ever not listen to that. It's amazing.
So I love speaking to you, Fiona.
Make that amazing connection with Fiona, because she has so many links with so many editors and so much of the media. So thank you for that. And coming to you then, Jude. So what have you got out from this morning, and how are you going to put it to work?
Well, firstly, I have to say a huge thank you, because it has been incredibly eye-opening, very informative, and I have learned so much within this hour. I have been considering going to BBC World Show with my poetry before. I have been considering going to the local newspaper here. That is a very big community paper, and it scared the hell out of me. It just really just was like, oh, you know, do people want to read about me? Do they really want to know who I am? And a month ago, I stopped drinking alcohol altogether. And I have to say, it's becoming my niche in my practice, in my RTT practice, because it was such a major change. And it really brought back myself, who I am today now, you know, the whole person that I am. And everything you said today, Fiona, so resonated with me, because I feel that I've gained the courage here to actually put myself out there and tell my story and be brave enough, which I've actually started telling my story on Facebook, and the response has been incredible. You know, coming into a vulnerable state and showing that to people, that you've been there, you've struggled through everything that you are now helping people with, I think is amazing. And what resonated with me the most is this exercise that you gave us, because believe it or not, I do this with some of my clients who need to figure out what areas to work on. I tell them to draw a circle, put their name in the circle, and then put areas of life around it that are really major and important. And then we pick out on what needs the most amount of attention. So I absolutely love this, because I've never done it with me and my business. So it'd be a really, really eye-opening thing to do. So yeah, I am just so grateful, and I would so love to connect as well.
Oh, wonderful. Wow. Amazing feedback, Fiona. I knew everyone was going to love you. Everyone
Thank you.
in the chat box for your email details. So please, could you put your website address in there and your email address, and everyone can connect with you. But I'm sure you know, I loved what, who was it said? courage precedes confidence. I think Mel said that, yeah. So I think we've all got to, you know, be more courageous and be more confident, and, you know, start really putting ourselves out there and start telling these stories. We have amazing stories to share, and start thinking about, you know, how these stories are part of the leveraging where our business is going and how we can help people. Because as you said, Fiona, there's going to be somebody somewhere reading that story and saying, that's me. I'd really like to connect with this person. And there, you know, who knows what would happen next. So, so Fiona's put her details now in the chat box. So please feel free to download that. Fiona's also a member of I Am Woman, so she's in the I Am Woman Academy. So you can connect with her there and message her from there. And please could we do almost like a virtual round of applause for Fiona, because we've all had amazing learning with you. And thank you very much, Fiona. And we'll be putting the recording out then to the rest of our members, and we'll spin it through our socials as well. So thank you so much, and look forward to seeing everyone same place, same time next week for our I Am Woman Hour. So look forward to seeing you then. Bye, Fiona, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.